We're going to cut to Tom McNaughton now. Tom, dude, let's do a sound check live, shall we?
What's going on, brother?
Hey, what's going on with you? Where are you actually?
So I'm in the dough room of the original Flour and Water.
Now, what's the difference between the original Flour and Water and Flour Water Pizzeria?
So Flour and Water opened 10 years ago.
Okay.
I would say within the first 8 months of opening, we started to create what I'm in now called the dough room. And really, so we have a wood burning oven doing our kind of take on Neapolitan style pizzas. And slowly but surely over time, especially in the first year, pasta really took the heart of the menu. And as we elaborated on it and doing pasta tasting menus and doing, 20, 25 different varieties every day. And so we built the dough room to be able to take care of all of that production. So they're going to be anywhere from 6 to 8 people working in here throughout the day, producing still all of our Neapolitan style doughs and all our different pasta varieties.
Amazing. Amazing. What are you holding in your hand there?
No, I wanted to bring this up. I actually just moved last week. I live above Flour and Water, the restaurant. I just moved, and so I just picked up my mail. And something that is extremely special. And I don't know if they want me to call them out or not, or they wanted to keep this a secret, but I get this letter in the mail today in trying times, to say the least. And it's from the DiNapoli family. It says, "Dear Thomas, just a note of support for you and the incredible Flour and Water team that are so critical to the community, especially during this crazy, challenging time upon us. Please apply this modest fund to your gift card and select a warm and worthy recipient most important for it. Keep up the great work, lifting spirits and supporting the community, Rob, Betty, and Emerson."
Incredible.
And guys, I don't know if you're on, but it's little things like this in the community that keep me kind of pushing forward and makes me want to be a better participant in the community. And so this is huge. It brought a little, I'm not going to lie, it seemed like the room was a little dusty at the time when I opened it up, and brought a little tear to the eye. So this is great, guys, and I appreciate it.
That's incredible. Yeah, I'm pretty sure when Rob was sending those out the other day, I actually think he sent out gift certificates to all of his clients because he was trying to think of what he could do to support the community, and he thought when these places reopen, they're going to need some cash. So short of sending you guys each $100 bill, I think that's what he thought he could do. Isn't that amazing?
It's amazing, yeah.
We're going to get into this. I'm excited to have you here, Tom. Thank you for agreeing to come. So, what I'm trying to do with everybody that we talk to is I want us all to kind of be on the same level here. And I know when I was starting off, I looked at people like Peter Reinhardt or people like you. I mean, I came to Flour and Water the first year you were there. I sat at the counter and I didn't know who you were or what you looked like. And I didn't know about John Darsky at the time or Keith from Amelia's, but I'm pretty sure you guys were all there. And you were making killer pizza, and you had these beautiful leopard spots. And I felt like it was like a lab of absolutely incredibly talented chefs with a real vision. The pizza was great. The pasta was great. The vibe was great. The energy was amazing. But, I know that you didn't start there, and so I want to try to go to the very beginning with everybody and find out where you're from and what your earliest remembrances of pizza were. So let's start there.
Yeah, I'm from South Jersey. I try to hide that as much as I possibly can, unless I'm directly asked. But 30 minutes outside of Philly, and just fell in love with kitchens. Kind of fell in love with kitchens, professional kitchens, before I fell in love with food. I was 14 years old, kind of same story as a lot of chefs, washing dishes to put money in my pocket, and fell in love with the camaraderie, the team. It was like kind of joining a baseball team. I loved working with my hands. I loved being creative. I loved the physical aspect of it, and kind of all that fell in line with professional kitchens. And just started to work, coming up through restaurants. I started at a half bar, half liquor store. And working the fry station, and just slowly came up. When I graduated from high school, I decided to move to, I went to culinary school, dropped out halfway through to move to San Francisco just because I fell in love with the farm scene, the products, the chef community here. And my kind of MO was, I was really into fine dining restaurants. I wanted to be the fine dining, tortured soul, 12-seat restaurant. Every single plate goes through my hands. And my MO was I would work for a restaurant for a couple of years, save up as much money as possible, and go travel and stage in Europe. And then come back to San Francisco, work for a couple of years, save up as much money as possible. And I started to find myself more and more drawn to Italy and the rusticity of the food, but also where culture kind of meets, or how food is so intertwined with culture, and just became obsessed with it. And certainly, I love the history of Italian food and how at times it can be so dogmatic, it seems like, and this is exactly how it should be. And in 2009, I was living and working in Bologna, and about 2008, and then started to correspond with my now business partners to open Flour Water. And that opened in 2009, kind of right at the height of the recession, kind of throwback.
Real quick, how did you meet your business partners?
I actually worked with, so I have two main partners, David White, David Steele. Now, as we evolved the company, Natimius Restaurant Group, we've brought on other partners, Ryan, Vanya, and Cara. And I actually worked with David White at a restaurant in San Francisco called Quince.
And I feel like a lot of chefs came from Quince. Would you say that's true?
Yeah. All got a lot of scars,
Who are some of the other chefs that might have come through Quince that we might have heard of?
Oh man,
who ran Quince when you were there?
Excuse me?
Who was running Quince when you were there? Who were the owners?
So it was the old location, and Tuscan. I was the first sous chef ever hired.
Really?
I think it was 2 years in, or maybe I think it was like 2.5, 3 years in, and he did not have a single kitchen manager. He was there every single day. Talk about tortured soul. Working the pasta station.
Who is the chef of Quince for people who don't know?
Michael Tusk.
Michael Tusk. And is he somebody that's pretty well known in San Francisco?
Yeah, I think, and then certainly on the fine dining circuit. I mean, he's pretty renowned, pretty well known. He's got a Cattonia that they added on next to Quince, right. Focusing on more rustic Italian food, Verjus. I mean, yeah, he's a big name.
So you were his first sous chef.
Yeah, it was definitely a crazy time, and then very different than it was right now. And that was kind of always I was fascinated by fine dining. Now, fast forward, so that was maybe 14, 15 years ago. Fast forward, I appreciate it, but it couldn't be farther from what I want to do on a day-to-day basis.
Got it. Absolutely. And so you met David White there. He was one of your partners. Was he a server?
Yeah. So he was a server, and we just always kept in contact, and then started to do email exchange. He kind of sent me the first draft of the Fllour+Water business plan. It was so different. It was more like a wine shop. We said we were going to do pizza delivery on a 10-block radius on a bicycle. So
I love that.
And we just evolved it and opened it, like I said, at the very end of a recession. I think, and this is crazy in San Francisco, I think the final dollar we spent pre-opening was $365,000, I want to say. Which is
shoestring budget.
I mean, everything we bought. Talk about Michael Tusk. He sold us like $100,000 of used equipment from moving restaurants, and shoestring budget. We picked a day and said, okay, this is the day we're going to do a soft opening. Somehow the word got out. I think we opened the doors at 6:30, and we did 220 covers.
Oh my God.
And I would say probably for the first 3 years, it never dipped below 220.
And that was not a big restaurant, right? How many seats?
At the beginning, it was like 42 seats, I want to say.
So that's like 4 or 5 turns, right?
Yeah, and we were open to midnight every single night. All the kitchens working 16 hours a day.
That kitchen wasn't big either, was it?
Oh, it's still not big, man.
And did you have that dough room where you're sitting now when you first opened?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at, we're on 20th Street, we've expanded in so many different areas. So we have Flour+Water, the service kitchen downstairs. We have the dough room, a production kitchen. We then had a test kitchen that we added on to produce our cookbook about pasta. And then we evolved, made Tima's Restaurant Group. We opened Central Kitchen down the street, Trick Dog the Bar, a little daytime deli called Salumeria. And then fast forward to just about a year ago, we opened Flour Water Pizzeria.
Awesome. And that's where we met the first time, right?
And that's where we met. That's where we first shared our beer for the first time.
So when I got a call from you guys, I was a little bit, I gotta admit, I was a little bit nervous because, first of all, I didn't even know how you got my name. It turned out that it was John Darsky, right? You're one of your original pizza guys,
Yeah.
who runs Del Popolo now, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from what I remember, I think maybe Dave contacted him and asked if he wanted to do the dough again, and he said contact Noel.
Yeah.
And I appreciate that connection, but I was really thrown for a loop that a big chef like you would think of or even know somebody like me. And so
Well,
I gotta say, I lost a lot of sleep in anticipation of that opening.
I actually think it's a really interesting talking point because I've actually, some people have come to me and said, why do you, we have a whole consultant line of our company where we help build business plans and raise funds and impressions. And people come to me and said, oh, are you a little embarrassed? You brought on Noel for a dough consultant? Or why would you outreach? Why wouldn't you just develop the dough 100% yourself? And to me, I don't get that at all. We hire amazing sous chefs. We have amazing chef de cuisines. Part of what I love about my job is being able to get people the tools that they need to succeed. And that's not physical tools. That's not a spatula or an oven. That's the atmosphere, just everything, all the dynamic things that go into creating good food. Those chef cuisines, those sous chefs, those cooks, those externs that we have bring so much to the table, so much knowledge and so much expertise of their own. Wow. That we all develop the food in a collaborative nature. It all has to go through a funnel. And my partner, executive chef Ryan, we're kind of at the tail end of that funnel and being able to craft and orchestrate with people. But it's everybody that's creating in a collaborative environment. And why would we not bring in someone that knows a little bit more than us, or a lot more than us, or and to be able to get the end result that was in my head? You certainly
Did we actually do that?
Depends how the day's going. No.
Good answer. Yeah, for sure.
A good day, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean that is. I don't know why anybody would be embarrassed or why they would try to conceal. And I think a lot of people, when they bring in consultants, they try to conceal it a little bit, or they feel uncomfortable about it.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, the project would be so different if you weren't a part of it.
Sure.
Hopefully, if you weren't a part of it, we'd still be selling a great pizza.
You would be.
But it
would be a different pizza. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. I like your outlook. I think a lot of people. You're right. I have to sign a lot of non-disclosure agreements often when I work with people because they want it to be their idea.
Yeah.
Interesting. So that was the beginning. We opened beginning of 2019, right?
Yeah.
And so tell me what's been happening for you in 2019 and 2020.
Well, last couple. Where do you start? I need some whiskey to talk about the last couple.
I thought you were going dry. Last we spoke.
I'm trying to keep a clear head over here. Last couple weeks I was not dry, so that's why I'm going to go dry this week.
So 2019 we launched.
So we launched Flour Water Pizzeria. It's extremely stylistically different from from a Neapolitan style. I truly appreciate Neapolitan and Neapolitan style pizzas. I really, really appreciate them in atmospheres like Flour and Water OG, in the fact that I can have a slice or two to kind of be a part of a meal and an experience.
Yeah.
Neapolitan pizza, and I'm not knocking it. You know, I really appreciate it and I enjoy it, but I don't necessarily crave it on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And that longer bake, deck style pizzas, that's what I truly crave. And I feel like what was in my head and you trying to decipher what was in my head and then being able to apply it, and then working together, it really did. It really did. And it's a very, I want Flour and Water Pizzeria pizza to be distinct on its own right. And I don't need to label it and I don't need to say it's this style of pizza, but the style that we're trying to achieve. And like I said, it's not achieved, it's trying to achieve it on a daily basis. Is one that I crave. And it's a longer bake. Like I said, we went all the way down to up to a 6-minute bake. Our oven, we're doing Pizza Master. And is Fairholm on this thing? Or what?
Michael Fairholm, he is not on this thing. He should be.
That no one would get a word in edgewise, you know?
Yeah. You know what I always think about when I think back to our opening? Remember we were doing a soft opening and a lot of investors were there and it was just you and me on the line.
Yeah.
And I was baking and helping the top and you were stretching and we were having technical issues with the oven and the oven temperature was spiking. It was going over 700 and we were actually, everybody loved the pizza except for me and you because it was closer to Neapolitan. Bake was 2-3 minutes, and we couldn't control the oven temperature because we were opening the doors too much.
Doors open, swinging pizzas around like we're cooking out of the.
Yeah, it was, and everybody was like, "Oh, the pizza's going to be great," and me and you were like, "This is not the pizza we're going to serve in 2 weeks. This is not it."
Yeah.
It was really a down point for us, right?
Yeah, and then fast forward. I mean, at the so we've fast forward. We've locked down all operations from all 5 of our restaurants.
Yeah.
That really,
What do you mean by lockdown?
We just stopped operating for the safety of our employees. I mean, San Francisco, the climate in San Francisco is very different, and I'd say it's really close to New York. You know, we have a shelter in place here that we're trying to stop the spread of it. I would rather have the businesses suffer for weeks and get through it, than suffer for months. And trying to be trying to do our part in some sort of solution. And right now it was shutting everything down. But all of our restaurants are open 7 days a week. It's a machine and it rolls every single day. It's a machine. And a lot of our menus, besides the pizzeria, a lot of our menus change on a daily basis between, you know, what we're getting from farmers and we only use whole animals. So we have to craft menus that change every day. But that machine that rolls 7 days a week, you know, and all of our places are super busy, so it's hard to invoke a big change. And silver lining is I'm so excited to be able to close to then reopen in so many different fine tunings, you know, awesome. And the pizzeria as well, you know. So, rewind opening. We have so much knowledge, we have so much data points now that say, okay, we should have done this when we first opened. We did a separate entrance for to go, and to go was for one thing, and I'll talk about maybe later. Januzzi's Pizza in Margate, New Jersey. That was an inspiration for the.
Talk about it now.
So we opened we wanted a side entrance we wanted to be, you know, work with tech and have delivery drivers and get pizzas in homes, and so we did a separate entrance. We did not put nearly enough infrastructure in our to-go entrance to satiate all the needs for so many pizzas. I mean, we had no idea the volume. You know, we're so fortunate to have the volume at the pizzeria that we do. It's massive. And so things like that where we can shut down, we can renovate. And it's the little details. This shelf should be 2 inches higher here. This should be here. We should put this here. When we're slicing, we're going on here. Our cooling racks are here. And all those like little details. It's great to be able to. I'm just trying to find the fucking silver lining, Noel.
I know, right? No, I mean, it must be hard for somebody who's been working for so long, and you know, you built up from the bottom to, you know, the top, if you want to say, but and now you don't, you know, you closed all your restaurants. It must be an incredible transition.
Well, we moved. I moved my family, so it's very strange moving during a coronavirus outbreak. And two, I get to see my kids, man. You know, and then be able to it's hard to sit still, but it's also being able to have time to be able to really reflect those changes. Is 2 inches an inch and a half? Let me really think about it. Let me go through, and it's not like go, go, go.
Yeah.
So,
And you're a new father again, right?
yeah, I mean, relatively.
Relatively.
A 4-year-old and a year old.
Got it. Well, that's a pretty crazy story. Pretty crazy story. Hey, Justin.
The big
Go ahead.
slice. When I was 18, I'm working in a country club. I lived in a house that was in Margate. It's down the Jersey Shore. It's like just north of Atlantic City. And there was Januzzi's Pizza right in the corner. I lived in a 4-bedroom house. I want to say there was 10 guys. No lie. It was like transient
Wow.
too. Like people come and go. We weren't we didn't have a lot of money. And Januzzi's on the corner had the big slice. And this
Big slice, yes.
big slice. This piece of pizza was like 10 times bigger than the size of my melon. And it was like something ridiculous. It was like $2.50 for a big slice or something like that. And we lived on it. And I wanted to do I wanted our to-go. I wanted people to walk down Valencia Street where the first pizzeria is and be able to have a slice. And, you know, we're working with like a 13 and a half inch pizza inside the shop. I wanted a big slice. I wanted something that people could walk down the street. You can compete with a Mission Burrito. You know, let's just go get a big slice.
Yeah.
Well, as you and I are developing, we're cooking on the line. It was like days before opening. I'm saying, okay, we're gonna do this big slice. And I'm looking at our third. I want it as streamlined as possible. I don't want different weight. I don't want different size gram balls in the walk-in. If we're not going through these, we're going through these. I want to streamline it as much as possible. And I'm looking at a 13 and a half inch pizza, and I'm like, God damn, there's no big slice coming from this thing. There's no kind of flashback to Naples and folding over pizza and fueled by beer and trying to make this thing go through. We all decided to go with the big slice is half of our pizza. It's a distinct flavor every single day. It's a pizza cut in half, chop the crust off a little thing, arugula, a topping, maybe marinara, something like that, and it's folded over and it's folded, and you can walk down the street. And I love it, man. It definitely pisses off a lot of, pizza connoisseurs have pushed back a little bit on it. Is it pizza? Is it a panini? Or a panino? It's not a panino. It's just a folded over pizza, man.
Yeah. Well, speaking of those people, I have a feeling that I'm looking at. We have a couple hundred people that are watching and listening right now. Justin, do any of them have any questions?
Yeah, we got a couple questions. Tom, I just want to say thanks again for joining us. I know that we're all in this together, and you guys have some unique circumstances up there in San Fran, and we really appreciate it. And I know that everybody out there that's listening is, really appreciative too. So just to clarify, I know you talked about the oven a little bit, and I think that one thing somebody's asking, they said, Tom, those pizza ovens that you use are pretty interesting. What made you choose them? Could you just talk about, I think that pizza for me is so subjective. Once you know what you like, that's what you follow, right? I mean, like, to me, it seemed like you were can you wax on that a little bit more?
Yeah. So, I go to Flour Water Pizzeria, and this is interesting for the brand too. I didn't want to do a Neapolitan pizza for the pizzeria, and that mainly is one because I was trying to search for a pizza that I really wanted. I had the end goal in mind, but also two, I wanted to be able to do to-goes. I wanted to put pizza in a box, and
the reason you couldn't do Neapolitan is because you put it in a box, it's a mess, right? It just flops.
Flour and water OG. A Neapolitan pizza comes out of the oven. I can eat the whole thing. It comes out of the oven right in front of me. I can eat the whole thing in 4 minutes.
Right.
If that pizza sits for 5 minutes and I take the first slice, it's garbage.
Right.
And that's what it really came down to. So I really wanted to go to a deck style. I really wanted to slow down the cooking process, but I wanted power. And even doing research, Noel was a big part of it as well. Hearing Pizza Master first, it's an electric oven. Hearing it and saying electric oven, to me, just in my head, working with all this equipment, I'm saying it's not as powerful. Electric doesn't sound as powerful than a gas deck to me, and it's the exact opposite. Those things are just beasts. And honestly, we had problems running it too hot and it was a little too powerful, and being able to tweak everything about it. And they're so versatile.
Right. Right.
You know, and they're also very unique because they pull so much power. Not a lot of guys can get them. I mean, they don't have the infrastructure, especially in bigger cities, to be able to pull enough power to run them. So yeah, no, I'm obsessed with the thing. I'm obsessed with the versatility to it. You know, we have 4 decks. 3 of the decks are running at the same time. We're on the bottom deck to reheat big slices. But we're also, the bottom deck's the only thing that we use to roast and char different vegetables and stuff like that.
And are you able to have each deck at a different temperature too, so you can roast a little lower, or is it?
So you can change each deck. We run 3 decks at the same time just because of volume. So we're cooking all pizzas at the same temp. We're reheating on a bottom one at a different temp. But you can also change, and I had a lot of headaches, and I was banging my head on the table for a long time with Noel, and better understanding the frequency on how Pizza Masters works, because you can change the frequency of both the bottom deck and the top of the oven itself. And I think a lot of people think that those are heat sources. I want 5% of, I want 1 out of 10, I want a 5 on the bottom and 6 on the top. And really it's about how it's feeding electricity to those parts of the oven. And so once you understand how to use them, they're crazy versatile.
You know, it just goes back to what we've been talking about a lot, and what we were talking about yesterday. Once again, it's variables in the equation. The type of oven that you use, depending if you're using a coal fire, you're using a deck, you're using a wood fire. You know which one you're using. So and
beyond that, I mean, our hardest thing, and with consistency, our same guy makes the dough. They're going into proofer retarders. We're hitting a consistent 3-day ferment, and still all those things, they're all in line. Depending on who stretches the dough,
right,
changes the whole complete thing. If 5 people on this thing, 5 amazing pizza wizards on this, can stretch the same dough, the same person's baking it, and they're 5 completely different pizzas when they come out. And that's our biggest. That's what we really try to focus on as well, and it's not easy, because I do want it's not about look, it's about how a product eats, and when you shoot it differently, it eats differently. It's not necessarily about the look. That look will tell you, it'll give you a gauge.
Sure.
But how it eats, yeah.
I mean, you eat a little bit with your eyes, but let's be honest, you put it in your mouth and we'll see what it tastes like, right? So, awesome.
Hey, Justin, can I jump in for 1 sec?
Yeah.
An interesting thing. So when I came to visit you guys the first time, I know you and Dave came down here a few times, and I went up there. And one of the most memorable things was meeting Ryan at OG Flour and Water. And I think Dave wanted to test me, and he had me go in there, and I watched your dough being made. And you were having some issues. They were just with consistency, and he asked if I could help. And I went in there for 2 hours and watched the dough being made. And then I met with Ryan and told him 5 or 6 things I thought I would adjust. And I was there for a while, and basically, it's interesting how the dough had changed since when either Darsky or Keith Freilich had originally engineered it. And I feel like it was like a long 10-year game of telephone, right? Every sous chef handed it over to the next one, and every sous chef made a change or a half of a change, a tiny little tweak that you didn't think mattered, and it probably didn't, because if you change one thing in a 2-day process, it shouldn't affect the dough too much. But one change every year with a new sous chef, or every 2 years, actually made a very different dough. So once we identified some of the weak points in the process and questioned them and maybe made a few tweaks, Ryan said that it was a much easier dough to work with.
Yeah.
I think that's incredible. Yeah. So many things being done right, but just a few little weak points in the process, or maybe a few differences depending on who's managing that part of the process, and you have a totally different dough 2 days later.
Yeah, I mean, I fight, and I've always fought. We don't have the biggest company in the world, but it's not a small. When we opened Flour and Water, there's 25 employees, and managing it, and having my hands in every single thing, and doing it. And I've always fought, corporate notions.
Yeah.
And it's how we cook our food. It's how we write our menus. We get the turnips, and we're like, what do we want to do? I mean, back to pizza. We get the tomatoes. And if we get, during tomato season here, we'll buy tomatoes from maybe 15 different farms. And those 15 different farms, they may be growing the same varietals, but they're completely different products and end result, whether it's terroir, their soil, their watering practices, whatever it is. And we analyze food and say, okay, how do we want to handle this? And that kind of touches on a little bit of what you said, the evil side of it, of it's not the dogmatic, it's just analyzing, well, let's try this a little bit now, let's try this a little bit now. And then if that's not funneled correctly, you get shitty dough.
It's variables in the equation, man. And I love the metaphor, because I think, like we were learning yesterday, and I think a lot of people, it's like, you got to try at something, and then you got to fail a little bit to know what you didn't like, and then you figure it out. We got Kimberly was asking, how many pies a day were you guys doing before the shutdown?
Okay. So Flour+Water OG, or the pizzeria. The pizzeria, Flour+Water OG, as it evolved over the last 10 years, we're still doing. When we first opened, people thought it was taking on to a pizza concept. Pasta is the heart of the menu. Like I said, we do a pasta tasting menu. There's anywhere from like 20, 25 different varieties of pasta daily that changes. We don't sell a lot of pizzas at OG, because Four Top will order one pizza for the table, incorporate their meal. And you may have a lone guy. And so the pizzeria, I think our biggest day was 750 pizzas.
Right.
And then it would fluctuate anywhere from 600 to 750.
Sabu is wondering, why sauce on top?
Well, actually, Sabu, we tricked you. Sabu. We're actually sauce in the middle, brother.
Hold on, can we? I put that was secret code to you. So what does sauce on top mean to you, Tom?
So again, when I'm going to the pizzeria and I want to do this deck style, when I was a kid, we go to the Jersey Shore and Mac and Mancos. It's now they're from Jersey, so one of them's in jail. It's not Mac and Mancos anymore. I think it's Manco and Manco. Yeah, it's Manco and Manco. I'm fucking obsessed with this pizza. It's on the Ocean City Boardwalk, and
love this.
They're pouring their sauce on top. Blew my mind as a kid. Loved it. Obsessed with it. Wanted to get it. So as we're developing, we're testing in the pizzeria. I just wasn't happy with it, and it wasn't eating like, we wanted to do. It's not Neapolitan, and I don't want to offend anybody here, but we do a margarita pizza on the menu. I know it's not Neapolitan, but it wasn't eating. Red pies weren't eating like red pies to me, and so another drunken night with Noel, and I think we'll argue at this point whose idea it was, but.
It was your idea, of course. You're the executive chef. Yeah. I'm the consultant. That's the final answer.
Yeah. This is still touching a sore spot here. We were trying to engineer the dough to survive in a box and be something that we're really, really proud of.
So were you, just real quick, so surviving in the box, you want to maintain the integrity of the crust that you worked so hard with all the other variables to achieve, correct?
Every single time a pizza comes out of the oven, start a stopwatch, right? And that stopwatch for me, like our Neapolitan doughs, is around like 4 or 5 minutes where I'm like, that's garbage now. It's no good. I want to extend that stopwatch to have integrity in every single thing about that pizza. And whether that's, we look at every pizza like we would any other dish. The basis of it, the platforms, the textures of it. So it's the toppings, it's the dough. And I wanted to survive. I wanted to come to your house in 15 minutes and be like, fuck, it's such a good pizza. It's craveable. And what we found, so we're shaving aged mozz. We're putting aged mozz on the bottom, sauce on top of it, and then fresh. So whether it's like from, Jersey, Fllour+Water, whatever we're putting on top. So it's actually sauce in the middle. Two things happened that we didn't know. One, that shaved aged mozz on the base of it actually separates sauce from dough itself, and you actually see more of an oven spring underneath the sauce. It allows it to spring up a little bit, right? It doesn't. The dough isn't hydrated with wet sauce, and then also there's a heat element, which I didn't really think of. That aged mozz, when it melts, it's actually allowing to absorb more heat and maintain that heat. And so the pies just ate better when we did it that way. So it's actually sauce in the middle. And then what we do for whites versus reds, so our red pies, we have blocks and we'll shave dry mozz on the bottom. And then our white pies actually start with the same product, but it's just shredded. So it's a little bit more even spreading. It's a little easier to get on. So all have fresh and NH.
That's, and we can just wax a little bit here. That's that's kind of a technique that a lot of people have been implementing in the Detroit style of pizza, putting the cheese down because we want that, we're looking for some life in the middle to give it that spring that you were saying, and then everything on top. The cheese kind of seems to create a good barrier there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tom, I'm just curious, and looking back, I know that we there were so many times you said, really, sauce on top, and I saw how you were struggling, and there was the Jersey boy telling you, no, stick to your roots, and there was a chef part saying, no, just, it's got to taste right, this is not right. And I remember it was, as you would call it, one drunken night when we were just like eating and
I just got to say, I missed a lot of those. I just feel a little.
I know you were, sorry, Justin, you weren't working with me then. No, but I really saw you struggled because I think you were really wanting to create a pizza that spoke to you. And when it finally did, it did. And the success of that pizzeria is awesome. But I really applaud you for not giving in and making me work extra hard and making me, I lost a lot of sleep trying to make you happy. And I really didn't know how to do it. People always ask me as a consultant, they're like, well, I know what you do. You have 3 recipes. And if the chef doesn't like 1, you give him 2. If he doesn't like 2, you give him 3, right? I'm like, that does work for some people. But what I love about working with chefs like you is that doesn't work at all. You can give them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're like, yeah, what else you got? That's you said to me a million times. What else you got?
Yeah, no. But too, it's that collaboration, And so we start with a recipe, and then there's a collaboration. There's back and forth. There's dialogue. There's experimentation, and then it ends up very, very, very different.
Right, and people are asking about that. Did you guys develop the dough at Fllour+Water specifically with the pizza master in mind, or the to adapt the oven for the dough? They're saying.
So we started. I actually just to it started with Noel coming up and just rapping about pizzas. We ate it at a bunch of places in San Francisco, and we just kind of rapped about pizza and what we were trying to achieve. We then went down to LA and worked with Noel for a little bit out of his commissary kitchen.
Surface.
And that got us, honestly, maybe I'm wrong in saying this, that got us maybe 30% of the way. And the other 70% came in with us actually installing the Pizza Master, working all the variables you're talking about, working with our Pietro Roberto mixer, working with our flours that we wanted to, working in the environment that we wanted to, working working with the oven, screaming at Michael Fairholm to fix it. All those things kind of came into play. So it was, we needed I can say, here, listen, here's the Flour+Water Pizzeria Bible. Go take it, you do it. They'll come up with a different result. They won't have the same results. I'm not saying that result would be better or worse or whatever, but it takes so much of all the variables have to come together to get the final product.
Yeah, the process, is just as important as the ingredients, as the mixer, as the water, as all that stuff. So I agree. We got Harry's asking here, guys, how would you describe Sicilian style?
Oh, I gotta see. I got a the final tweaks. Not the tweaks I'm talking about with shutdown. I'm not gonna say where. You can follow us on all of our Instagram accounts. But one of our properties, and it's not Flour+Water Pizzeria, is going to give birth to our style of Sicilian pizza soon. And that's the Jersey again in me coming out that we would get.
So Tom, what are you looking for in that? Just give us what you what you are looking for.
You know, again, I grew up with really shitty Sicilian pizza, which is really a very, very dense, like very, very dense
Sponge.
Sponge of a dough outside of Philly. I want to aerate mine a lot more. I want to see more definition. If you're looking at the crumb, it's kind of looks like crumb from Detroit meets a Sicilian, you know. You got the what's his name from Angelo's in Philly? Is he a part of this at all?
Yeah, he was here yesterday with us. No.
Oh yeah, he was definitely. He's the only person I know that can follow Chris Bianco. That's for sure.
Angelo, shout out.
That's
Angelo.
it, Angelo. Wow.
Angelo,
yes.
motherfucker.
Danny was great. He was amazing. I hope to have him back as soon as
God
possible. In
damn
fact, I'd start another one of these next week just to get that guy back.
That was Angelo's. You just going back and then visiting family. Angelo's one of the first places that I went there and walked out and said, "Motherfucker, it's good." I got chef and
Motherfucker, right?
Motherfucker, it's good. But all
say that about me.
He does like a grandma. He does a grandma upside down. I think he does like a Sicilian too. His square pies, man, they're the way to do it.
Delicious, huh? So Anonymous is wondering, is the age? This is back to the cheese in the middle, cheese on bottom, cheese. So they said, are you doing the age sliced or shredded on the bottom? Where are you? Because some people like the sliced to give it a more even.
All of our red pies are sliced, and that's so when we go sauce on top, it's easier to spread. And all of our white pies we do shredded.
Nice.
We also do a very distinct mozzarella stick. That's the biggest fucking pain in the ass that we've ever put on the menu.
Is it really?
It's the most labor-intensive thing.
I know. I know. We talked about this.
It is the most labor-intensive thing.
I know.
And so for all of our, we take aged mozz and then we can we shred basically all the scraps and use those on the white pies.
That's good.
It doesn't matter. We're not spreading any sauce on that. So both.
Amazing. Justin, more questions?
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm looking on the chat now. This is all we got on the Q&A. People are weighing in here that they've eaten their weight in the Mac and what do you call it? Mancos?
Oh, Mac and Mancos.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the place on the Jersey Shore, Ocean City. It's now I think it was Mac and Mancos. Now it's Manco and Mancos. One guy's in federal prison, I think.
Yeah, they said they went to jail for tax evasions.
Yeah. So Jersey. So
that's a badge of honor back there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Tom, I guess when you make a pie for you, like what do you? I mean, like here's the thing. I mean, once again, it comes back to, in my opinion, people say, "How do you make pizza?" It's like, well, what kind of pizza do you like? What are you looking for? What are you searching for? And I love the idea that the history that this growing up in Jersey, it feels like home, right? And it feels like being together, and it feels like something that's there for you and is supportive. Like what can you say to everybody that's watching out there? Like encourage people, like if they're at home with their families, maybe, how to start a pizza night or just experiment or tell me, like, what are you looking for when you want to, what do you like on your pizza?
I love the fact. Together, the pizza world.
Can you say it again?
Hey, Tom.
We lost you just for 1 second. Can you start over? Because I think that this is really important.
Food is culture. The pizza world is a whole different subset of culture within the food world. It's a tight-knit group. There's rules and regulations that go around, right? What I think is important is I love Italian food because of the same reason, meaning that I've been at tables in Italy and someone comes over to a pasta, starts shaving truffle on it, and half the table's in an uproar. They're like, "Oh, truffle doesn't go on that pasta. It's not traditional," right? And I love that, but I also fight it. I wanted a pizzeria that we can have the same pizza that we think of Flour+Water OG, meaning using the same farms. I'm going to put wild nettles on it. I'm going to ferment wild calzotes and finish it with Taleggio cheese. You know, those ingredients that I love and care about, and we can gather. I want a really fucking good pepperoni pizza.
Yes.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Put some ranch on that, right?
Yeah. I'm not messing around.
Come together. And one thing that we did at the beginning of the pizzeria that pissed so many people off, people were offended in the dining room, is that we put you can get a side of marinara, you get a side of ranch if you want.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And you know what?
Now, is that ranch from Hidden Valley, Tom?
What's that? I had no idea that Hidden Valley was the actual ranch that invented.
That's
it's fucking crazy. So what I'm trying to get at is that because that was a lot of questions all wrapped into one.
Yeah.
Is what I've learned over the years, and if I did things differently, you know, Flour & Water is 10 years old, and so I'll just say my career as an owner. If I did things over the last 10 years as an owner, I would follow my own voice way more often. Yeah. And that's kind of what we did with the pizzeria, meaning that I want a fucking pepperoni pizza. And I want the wild metal Taleggio pizza. And God damn it, if you want ranch, I'm not here to judge you.
And it's as goofy as it is, we get into the whole pineapple thing, but Noel knows this. And I'm just like,
oh, wait, you put ranch on, but not pineapple? Come on.
No. I'm saying if you put pineapple on your pizza, I'm not going to judge you, man.
That's what I'm saying.
What was your head doing on the table?
Dude, we have pasta shapes because pasta's the same way. We have pasta shapes at Flour & Water that we'll fucking invent. And then I'll see on other people's Instagrams that like shots of the same pasta saying, oh, this traditional pasta from Italy. No, dude, we made that up, man, because we wanted a different shape because I wanted a little different texture on that dish. Those guidelines are amazing. And I think everybody needs a box to play in for the most part. But when you play outside of the box, fucking rad. Cool.
Yeah, I don't understand. My thing is, you know.
In the first place, how odd for someone to say, you know what? I'm going to bake directly on just like this. And I'm going to put this and this and this. That dude was weird for a little bit. People are like, what the fuck is that guy's problem?
Yeah.
Play outside of the box. Fuck around with it. But still honor the traditions and know, and then maybe don't pretend like you're know where you're at.
Yeah. I mean, I love it. I mean, Noel and I talk about this way. We say, you know, pizza always, and then always pizza. If you like it, do it. If that's the type of pizza you want, go towards that direction.
And there's something about, and maybe people will disagree with me, but bad pizza, it's still good pizza to some. you know? Yeah. All right. But then to answer your question, it's all about the dough for me.
Back to that.
We talk about that too. It's the foundation. It's the foundation. You can have horrible dough and put really expensive toppings on. You're not going to have good pizza. However, you got great dough. You can put Ralph's shredded cheese on with, Hormel pepperonis, and it's going to be delicious. Yeah. And that's what I want to encourage the people at home. You know, you have that availability too. So,
for me, one of my biggest pet peeves in the world is bad or stale bread. You have the most amazing sandwich in the world, and if it's on amazing bread, it's fucking amazing. If you go back to that bread 5 days later and you make the same sandwich, the sandwich is garbage.
No good. Will?
Yeah. Tom McNaughton.
Tom McNaughton, everybody.
That was great. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you so much. And Tom, I know that you guys are going through a lot, and I'm going to post up. I know you didn't want to do this, but there's a fundraiser to help you guys. I'm going to post it on the panelists for the GoFundMe for.
Oh, I appreciate that. That's
everything.
For all,
I know that
they're going through some tough times.
Yeah, well, we're all going through this together, and to hear your words and know that you guys are, I know it means a lot. There are a couple more questions, but unfortunately, folks, I think we're going to move on. Noel?
I mean, I'm not going to move on. You can answer a question or two. Tom, is there anything else you want to say to us? Maybe some parting words, or can we invite you back?
Yeah.
Because I feel like, I love that I see Lance Roberts and Justin De Leon and Keith Freilich and Michael Malinowski and all these people. Eric's back now, Stephanie Swain, Rob DiNapoli. So anytime you want to come back and just be a fly on the wall, or if you want to chime in, we would love to have you.
Yeah, let me do a quick fire. Do you use grande as far as cheese?
Grande's our base. Yeah. Then we go through small dairies in Northern California, but it's kind of our base, and it's our base Spirit Latte.
They said, this is great. This is how many hours of prep is it dedicated just to slicing all that cheese?
Oh my God.
If you're doing 750 pies a day.
Way too many. I mean, that's why we went to shredded on the white pies.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah. It's many hours.
Yeah.
And you know what? It's a skill too. If that cheese is
True.
honestly. If it's too thin, good luck trying to do it on the line. If it's too thick, the pie doesn't eat right. It's like a skill to do it right.
Well, Tom, you know, I got to tell you, I know you were talking about your deck ovens. What we're trying to do is I love a good deck pick. So maybe later you could tweet at me some pictures of your decks.
Yeah, sweet. Cool. It's not very big.
Hey, you know what? Average size decks get the job done too. And there's no shame in that.
Right. Thanks, brother.
Yeah, dude. Oh, man. Oh, man.
Also, hey, I want to let everybody know that we're going to be going on with Jim Leahy next. Jim Leahy is one of my mentors out of New York City, Sullivan Street Bakery, and Pizzeria. We were supposed to have Evan Funky follow, and I was really excited to have two pasta guys, right? And it's so funny because I was going to have Evan Funky next, and most people don't know this about him, but even though he's heralded just like you, Tom, for pasta, the guy eats at least a pizza every day, and he doesn't even necessarily eat pasta every day. He always says, "I only eat pasta when I go to Italy," right? So he's a very outspoken guy, but unfortunately, Evan is he did not choose to close his pizzeria, which is not even a pizzeria, although it turned into that. He's doing so many pizzas, but he's under siege right now in Venice, California, and he's trying to keep his pizzeria open or his restaurant open, and he's trying to protect his staff and give everybody the opportunity to work if they want to and if they can. So. Big shout out to Evan Funky, and Jim Leahy generously is donating his time, and he has a lot of really interesting ideas. And so if anybody wants to come on in and be part of our panel discussion, he has a lot of very interesting ideas about the world, what the world is going to look like starting now. And he's an artisan baker from New York, and I know at one point he went back to Italy, Rome, I hear, and he went to. I think he actually worked at Forno Campo dei Fiori, which is a legendary bakery in Rome on Campo dei Fiori, and he came back to I guess New York after that and opened Sullivan Street Bakery, and the rest is really history. And so I think he's going to have a lot to share about pizza and bread, and hopefully he'll talk about other things as we've been doing for the last
Hopefully if he
days.
shows up. Ali is letting us know that Grande does offer pre-sliced now. So
I'm sure they wouldn't meet Tom's specifications, but thank you, Ali.
Ali, I don't know if it's going to be the right thickness.
Yeah, I mean that's good
sure it won't.
Yeah.
If it's too thick, it's too thin, it messes up. Once again, variables in the equation of what you're trying to do.
Oh,
right?
Variables in the
I'm reading
equation.
the comments right now. Someone said Mancos, how about that hose? They've now evolved. They have a couple locations, and they'll have stretchers. They stretch, they send it down the line, guy that adds cheese. They literally have a foot pedal and a hose that they go sauce on top on. Crazy.
Wow, I heard. Oh, that's the place that does that. I didn't know. Wow,
It spins the pizza?
No. So they stretch. They add they're shredded. I think it's a combo shredded cheese, and then it goes down the line, and they just have a saucer. And for sauce on top, they actually have a hose coming out of the table that is a foot pedal.
Oh wow!
Pump it on. I mean, it's massive. The pizza's garbage now. To be real.
Tom, that's what I always love about you. You don't mince words. That's a beautiful thing about working with chefs. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So, Tom, if you have time to stick around or just jump back in anytime you want,
well, I don't see our next panel.
He'll be around. I'll find him. I'll call him. Tom, your video's cutting out, and so is your audio. Where'd you go? Oh, I think he might have turned himself off.
I'm here.
No. Oh, good. What were you going to say? I'm sorry, your audio cut out in your video too.
Oh, I just said thanks for having me.
Oh yeah, thank you. It means a lot that you came. Thanks.
Look, I'm going to be tuning back in when I can.
Awesome. Please.
Okay.
Please. Tell Dave I said hey, right?
Of course.
All right. Thanks again.
Thanks.
That was awesome. Beautiful.
That was really great.